It's a situation that comes up all too frequently. An expert in their field publicly states a conclusion that is thoroughly accepted by the overwhelming majority of professionals who work in that field, only to get a deluge of responses from the public. Although the individual content of those responses will vary, the gist of them is usually the same. Sometimes, of course, even the best experts are mistaken. Sometimes, the best evidence points to one conclusion, but then new evidence comes along that throws that conclusion into doubt. And sometimes, a brilliant outsider or newcomer can emerge in a field, showing a new and superior path forward in our understanding of whatever we're investigating. But most of the time, practically all of the time, there are serious gaps and fundamental misunderstandings at work in the knowledge and mindset of the non-expert, not an oversight or an error on the part of the expert. Here's a handy guide to when you should and shouldn't explain an expert's field to them. Are you also an expert in that field? It's vital to understand that experts often disagree, particularly when they're talking about the absolute frontiers of their fields. For example, the first model that was put forth to consider the large-scale effects of global warming due to CO2 emission was published all the way back in 1967, and the major conclusions that it reached back then are still valid. Atmospheric circulation was understood, and that enabled very accurate predictions of how changing the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere would affect the temperature of the atmosphere, where doubling the concentration would increase the temperature with fixed relative humidity by about 2 degrees Celsius. This is tremendously consistent with the observed warming of about 1 degree Celsius, since the first accurate global temperatures were measured back in the 1880s, and the increase in CO2 concentration from the start of the Industrial Revolution, of about 50%. Those large-scale effects are not seriously debated by experts in the field for very good reasons. The evidence agrees with theoretical predictions. However, many aspects of modeling, ice sheet melting, cloud processes, and the impact on ecosystems and human society, are actively being studied. This is where experts often argue, and this should be the case. If you're also an expert, feel free to argue with other experts about the frontiers of your field. Have you discovered and verified an error in the expert's assertions? Oftentimes, people who are experts in one particular field will err, even though it's their area of expertise. There's not a single person among us who's infallible, and this goes for the most brilliant experts throughout history. The greatest names in physics, including Einstein, Hawking, Feynman, and Newton, all made enormous blunders in their professional lives. That includes not only in their research, but in their teachings and writings as well.